So our final green flag lap of the season coming to a close as the drivers make their way and trying to get as much temperature into those tyres. It's been one of those weekends where a little bit chilly yesterday, a little bit windy, and of course as we head to this time of the day, this time of year, things quite tricky out there to make sure the temperature is built. But we've got lots of anticipation, Josh, and this one is going to be hopefully a humdinger to end the season.
That's right, there are some championships to decide as we've been describing throughout the day here on Championship Finals Day, but with the overall title settled and plenty of drivers at the front that would like to win this, there's lots of stories that Alan's been getting, particularly from the first three drivers on this grid who would all desperately like to end the year with a race win. I think it means this is going to be a race to behold, round 30
Epic.
of 2025.
That's going to be the word for this, epic.
It could be an epic one indeed, and we never know, do we? We get to the end of the season, we don't know who's returning next year. No real announcements have been made, so for all of them this could be the last race in the BTCC. Probably not, but we know that a few are departing at the end of this year. But as you said, Josh, we've got a lot of drivers out there who all want to be maybe a winner for the first time this year, who desperately want to be a winner at the final round of the season.
Yeah, that's right, particularly the Jake Hill story. That's sort of the real big one, is it? And the emotions we heard with Alan Hyde on the grid just a few minutes ago just shows what this championship means to somebody like Jake Hill, who grew up watching this championship, managed to get into the championship, won the championship 1 year ago, and what a story it would be if in his last race for now if he come out on top. But the two drivers in front are going to make it as hard work for him as possible.
They certainly are. Yep, they're not going to bow down, are they? Aidan Moffat and Josh Cook on the front row of the grid. Every single vantage point around this Brandt circuit is being taken. You've been a wonderful crowd today. Thank you so much for being here for our season finale of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. As we said, this could be an epic end to the season. A champion already crowned, but let's give one final driver a win in 2025. The green flag waves at the back of the grid. Let's go racing for the final time this year in the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. 15 laps to look forward to. The red lights go out, and always the BMWs make a good start with the rear-wheel drive, and it will be Aidan Moffat who leads his teammate Jake Hill down towards the first corner at Paddock Hill Bend. Already Josh Cook has had to settle for third place, but it's the three Ford Focus Napa cars that go into fourth, fifth and sixth place as they turn their way uphill. We've got a mix of soft and medium tyres for the front runners, and already a move down the inside to put the other Napa machine ahead of the other one, so it's going to be fourth, fifth and sixth, which have already changed their way around. But Aidan Moffat, great start. Jake Hill sits there in second. Josh Cook next up in third place, and then fourth place going to be Ash Sutton ahead of what's going to be Dan Rowbottom and Dan Camish.
Dan Lloyd's made a fairly circumspect start, our Independence Championship leader. I think a top 4 finish is what he needs out of this, so he's just been a little bit cautious on this opening lap. Charles Rainford, the opposite story, because in that Jack Sears Trophy battle with his teammate Darrell De Leon, he's having to charge through the field, and Charles Rainford's gained 5 places in the early laps, but it's the two BMW drivers out front, Aidan Moffat ahead of Jake Hill.
Yep, 2 of those out front looking for a victory, the other 2 looking for a championship in the Jack Sears Trophy, so they're going to be working their way through as best as they can. But Charles Rainford, as you said, some great places taken already, trying to get himself a little bit closer to the number 2 machine of Darrell De Leon. He's only about 5 places back at the minute, and already the start is under investigation for the man who was on pole position. So Aidan Moffat, he might be in the lead, but is that start going to be under investigation with a penalty, as we've got the medical car just in position at the end of the pit lane. It was a bit scary seeing that was going on to the circuit. And here comes Josh Cook, maybe to get the inside of Jake Hill. The lights are flashing. We've got Boost to contend with in this race as well, but it's going to be nose to tail down towards Paddock Hill Bend, but Jake Hill for now holds on to second place.
Yeah, so the front wheel drive Toyota coming in, it's only way up the curb. It's Josh Cook way up on 2 wheels as he gets up alongside Jake Hill. Ash Sutton already into 4th position, and Josh Cook goes through ahead of Jake Hill, and Ash Sutton's going to try and follow him past as well. Memories showing back all those years when we had that finale where Josh Cook and Ash Sutton raced side by side. Sutton hasn't got past Hill just yet, though. He's having to tuck back underneath him out of Graham Hill Bend. He draws up alongside on the way down towards 30s. The inside line for Ash Sutton. He's gone from 8th and he's up to 3rd already. There's a clash between the two former champions. Jake Hill slides wide.
I think it's fair to say arms out, elbows out, everything out for this final race of the year, so no holes barred whatsoever. Jake Hill has lost out to Ash Sutton. He's coming back though with a bit of boost as he tries to draw alongside Dan Rowbottom, which he does. so he holds on to that place for the time being. But as we said, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic race to end the season, as in the background, Sam Osborne trying to make a move on Senna Proctor, but that doesn't quite work, as Adam Morgan now draws himself onto the tail of those two cars as they accelerate uphill in towards the right-hander of Sheen Curve, back to the left flick of Sterling's. But of course, with all that battling between Sutton and Hill and Rowbottom, it has just allowed the top two to scarper away, and it is the top four in this race on soft tyres. So Moffat, Hill, Cook and Sutton all on the soft tyre.
Yeah, that's right. In the independents, it is Chris Smiley that leads from Dexter Patterson and Mikey Dover, but fourth place for Dan Lloyd would be enough for Dan Lloyd to win the Independents Trophy for 2025. So he's there in fourth positions. The leaders head off towards Paddock Hill Bend, with Aidan Moffat leading by 4/10 of a second, but Josh Cook is starting to close in on the BMW that leads the way. Ash Sutton is third. Fourth is Jake Hill, those four soft shod cars, and Dan Rowbottom, Dan Camish, Gordon Shedden, Tom Ingram, Senna Proctor and Sam Osborne complete the top 10.
And Sam Osborne is trying to hold off here Adam Morgan as much as he possibly can. So it's Ford against the Hyundai. Of course, we know there's going to be a Constructors and Teams champion still to be crowned here this weekend, as Sam Osborne gets ushered wide by Adam Morgan. I think that's probably the third or fourth time that Adam has done that so far today, but it seems to be working, and he gets himself now ahead of Sam Osborne, as Nick Houseard, unfortunately, has had a moment down at the bottom of Graham Hill Bend, so he will eventually rejoin the track. But with all those names on the car, not the way he would have liked to end his last race.
No, that's right. But for the lead of the race, Josh Cook and Aidan Moffat out front. Moffat ahead of Cook, both looking for their first victories of the season. So they're both on for what could be a great way to end their 2025 campaign. You mentioned the teams and the Manufacturer Constructors Championships. That's both at the moment, as it stands, going the way of Napa Racing and Alliance/Ford, with the positions the cars are in at the moment. But for this race, on lap 3 of 15, round 30, heading down towards Clearways Corner, Josh Cook right on the tail of Aidan Moffat.
Yep, last time through, the quickest man on circuit was Josh Cook. So the Toyota Corolla is now into the mix. He's trying to pick up the pace. Of course, it takes a little bit longer for the Toyota to get that tyre switched on, but all of a sudden, he's now going to be there with Aidan Moffat on the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Further back, we've got the two Napa Ford Focuses doing battle between Rowbottom and Camish. They're going to be side by side through Paddock Hill Bend. Camish gets the inside run as they work their way up. There's contact between the two of them as well. Teammates making contact. It's going to be off into the gravel almost for Dan Camish, but that was very much unlike teammates, wasn't it? And there's a left front damage for Dan Camish, so that car is going to be stationary at Druids Corner.
And this could change the teams and the Constructors' Championship. Also, Tom Chilton was slowing it side by side for the lead of the race as Josh Cook dives down the inside to claim the lead at Surtees.
He certainly does. So Cook is now through. Moffat has to settle for second. He's straight back on the boost, though, as he draws himself alongside. So they're on 6 and 7. There's slightly more for Cook as it stands, but we're going to have a safety car in this race as well, and it's going to have to be decided who was ahead at the yellow flag zone, and Cook thinks he just about had it there, so he will stay ahead of Moffat, but that'll be a bit of boost lost as well over this lap. So Cook gets ahead just in time as the safety car was deployed. Aidan Moffat then backs off for second. Third place is currently Ash Sutton, and fourth place for Jake Hill. We know we've now lost Dan Camish, but it's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be any damage for Dan Rowbottom as well.
Yeah, Tom Chilton was slowing as well while all that was happening. There were three things that happened all at the same time. Dan Camish had that instant broken front left corner. That's why the safety car's out. Tom Chilton, I think, is pulled off at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. And we had that change for the lead up the inside into Surtees. But Aidan Moffat certainly was coming back at him just as the safety car was deployed. Side by side they were. Who was nosing ahead? Let's get a replay on the big screens then. Dan Rowbottom was ahead when this all started, Matt.
I'm very interested to see what happened here. Camish up on the curb. He did make contact with the back of Rowbottom, and then Rowbottom just seemed to come across and maybe not know that Camish was there, but a very bizarre moment which may have just started with the contact from Camish, but why then Rowbottom came across on Camish, I'm not too sure. But as I said, it might have just been one of those moments where he didn't know his teammate was there.
And that, for the championship in the teams, means as it stands, Team Virtue and Napa Racing UK are equal on points. So that collision between two teammates could be a championship deciding moment for Napa Racing UK, with Dan Camish out of the race.
I wouldn't want to be down in that garage right now, I don't think, because that could be another tense atmosphere for Napa Racing. Dan Camish seems okay. He's having a quick chat to some of the fans as he hops over the barrier and into the spectator area, so he'll want to get back to the paddock as quick as possible. But considering that's a heavy impact, he seems quite happy.
Well, you say he wants to get back to the paddock as quick as possible. He's going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, he might be going home to his car.
But I don't think Dan Camish had much to do with that incident, really, did he? He was on the inside, then there was contact, he was off the road. Unfortunate instant for sure for Napa Racing UK. So what we really important now for both Virtue and Napa Racing drivers to gain positions, isn't it? Because with them equal on points, the suggestion is Team Virtue with more race wins would claim it, but on countback. So this is an extraordinary situation for the teams championship, whereas for the manufacturers constructors championship, that is still going the way of Alliance Racing Ford. They've got a few points over Accelerate Motorsport Hyundai, but there is so many more laps to play out in terms of those two championships. We can see Tom Chilton's also out of his car and out of the race as we thought he was. In the independents, Dan Lloyd is in control of that, and Darryl De Leon is in control of the Jack Sears Trophy as it stands. But there's a lot to play out yet, and not only for those championships, but for the overall win as well, Matt.
Yeah, we normally have fireworks at the truck meeting, but they've come a little bit early, haven't they, this year, here at Brands Hatch for this final race of the BTCC. So as it stands under safety car, Josh Cook is your race leader. He's ahead of Aidan Moffat in the first of our BMWs, with Ash Sutton, who sits there in third. Jake Hill is then in fourth place. So it seemed like Jake Hill was struggling on those opening laps because he was very much under attack from Ash Sutton, who made very easy work of that number one machine. So those two have swapped around since the start of the race. Fifth place at the minute for 52 is Gordon Shedham. Sixth place, 32, Dan Robotham, with then Tom Ingram next up with Senna Proctor, Adam Morgan, and the next of our soft runners down there in 10th place at the minute. So watch out for Sam Osborne. With the help of this safety car, has just brought the field back together, so he might have another shot to try and work his way through Sam Osborne on the soft tyre. Just to say the other ones on soft, Dexter Patterson down in 13th place, Nicholas Hamilton as well in car number 28 in 19th. The rest of the field are all on medium tyres, so they're trying to defend from the soft runners, whereas soft runners are trying to work their way through. And just to say, in the Jack Sears Trophy, Darryl De Leon, of course, is ahead of Charles Rainford in this race, so it does mean the margin he had into this race has slightly been extended, so it's now 9 points between those two teammates.
There's not that many positions between them, though.
No.
Remember, Rainford started at the back. De Leon's 11th, Rainford is 14th, so that is still to be contested, I think, the Jack Sears Trophy. I think Dan Lloyd's a little bit safer in the independents, but it's certainly far from over. And then those teams and constructors championships, that's all to play for over the remaining laps. More replays on the big screens, and it's another mega start from Ash Sutton. We've got used to that so often this year, Matt.
And everyone seems to go to the inside, don't they? They all want to defend, but for Sutton it was like, no, outdoor, I'll go around there as much as I can.
He was fifth by paddock.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. So he had passed 3 cars, then he got past Dan Robotham. Just an amazing start yet again from Ash Sutton.
Yeah, then he was looking, wasn't he, on the inside of Cook and Hill down towards the left-hander of Surtees. So this is where Hill was slightly wide. Cook was also not as quick as he wanted to be, so that then bunched the pack up, and Sutton thought, let's go for another move. Round the outside he thought about, but then the inside almost opened there for his good old mate Cook, but that was then very quickly shut. So, yeah, a great run for Sutton on that first lap. I
just wonder if we're building up to another round 30 finale end of the race for Josh Cook versus Ash Sutton, just like we did a few years ago, because they've got Aidan Moffat between them at the moment, but we saw how quick Sutton was in the earlier race, and you just wonder if that battle's going to be resumed here at Brands Hatch again. Yeah, you can hark back, can't you, with the final race of the season, and of course the championship finale weekend. The likes of Matt Neal and Jason Plater was always a brilliant battle between those two. Ivan Muller was also another one as well back in the early noughties. So yeah, we can hark back many years, whether it be the Suttons and the Cooks and all the rest, but there's many over the years that have happened. Yes, there's been some extraordinary moments at this venue at Brands Hatch. You mentioned the Ivan Muller and Jason Plater. There was that really wet year when it was on the Indy circuit, the finale, and Ivan Muller had a huge fire, didn't he, as he went off the circuit, bounced across the grass, it caught the car on fire, and Jason Plato won for the first time in the championship. That was a particularly memorable finale, but there have been, as you say, so many over the years. Last year, even that battle between Tom Ingram and Jake Hill, where Jake Hill came out on top of the championship. But the championship just keeps on giving year after year. It sure does, right. Tom Chilton's car possibly is going to be left where it is down at Paddock Hill Bend. I think that will be safe. In terms of the recovery of the Napa Ford Focus, I think has been done. So
we shouldn't be too far away now from lights out, which we have got. So the safety car should be in at the end of this lap. Yep, starts to pull away from the field. So Josh Cook, for the first time this weekend, will lead the pack back to green flag racing. We have had 3 laps under safety car.
I wonder if Josh Cook's actually led a race all year, Matt. So a new experience for 2025 potentially for Josh Cook, but he's done this for so many years.
He certainly has, so he should know what to do. You have to go at the go board here these days, so hopefully Josh knows that one as he comes through the final corner of Clark Curve, and he's got the go board absolutely to perfection. Straight away, Aidan Moffat is on the lights to flash. Don't think that will kind of put off Josh Cook too much, but as they work their way down towards Paddock Hill Bend, a big push in the rear from Jake Hill there. He gets a little bit of contact from Gordon Shedden, so those two going nose to tail, and up the inside for second place it's going to be now Ash Sutton, so another fantastic start. Been a lot of grass being left on the circuit after that moment for Dan Camish, so that's going to just maybe catch a few drivers out, and Aidan Moffat has lost out to possibly that of Jake Hill as he, nope, it's going to be down the inside still for Moffat, but out now into second place has been Sutton, and it's going to be the BMWs who start to back the pack up.
Yeah, Jake Hill wants to get past his teammate Aidan Moffat, but it's not going to come easily. They're not going to be teammates again after today, so they can race as hard as they like, and Jake Hill's up the curb. It's sideways, but keeps his foot in, but he doesn't quite make the move on his teammate, and that's going to allow Gordon Shedden to challenge on the outside line up towards Hawthorne Bend. And can Gordon Shedden go round the outside of Jake Hill? No, he can't. So Jake Hill stays in 4th position, but Aidan Moffat has kept that 3rd place. It's perhaps not over, no. Shedden had another look, couldn't quite get there on Jake Hill, but that's allowed Josh Cook and Ash Sutton to get away up front.
Yeah, keep an eye on the side of the cars as well. Remember, if it flashes green, it means the driver is on the boost. So if it comes past you and you can see that flashing, they've got a little bit more power to use within that part of the lap, and there'll be a few drivers on it because quite a few towards the head of the order still have 5 or 6 laps remaining with this 11 lap race now we have remaining. 18 laps we have gone up to with the added addition from the safety car as our leader Josh Cook works his way back towards the line.
It was a bad restart from Darryl De Leon. He started his lap in 11th, he's down to 15th.
So Darryl De Leon has got more work to do as the BMWs do battle once again in towards Paddock Hill Bend for 3rd and 4th position. It's Moffat that still hangs on for now ahead of Hill, but they've got to watch in the background because Shedden is going to possibly try to make a move before too much longer. And we haven't really spoke about Tom Ingram too much, have we? Because he's lying under the radar in 7th position as the BMW still scrap as hard as ever through the exit of Druid. It's going to be Jake Hill now for the inside line in towards Graham Hill Bend. So he got pushed up last time through Surtees, and he almost gives it back to Aidan Moffat with Gordon Shedden now into the rear of the BMW on the run down towards the left-hander. Now Moffat's on the outside line. Will Jake Hill repay the favour? Aidan Moffat says, yeah, I'll put my brakes on just in case.
What was a bad restart from Darryl De Leon is not bad news necessarily because it was also for Charles Rainford. So Charles Rainford still behind Darryl De Leon a couple of places back. So both the BMW drivers battling for the Jack Sears Trophy lost positions on the restart.
It certainly does. So we ride now on board around the back of the circuit with De Leon making one of those places back up. We're on board with the Power Max racing car of Mikey Doble. So he, of course, is vying for the Independence Trophy. 2nd at the minute behind Dan Lloyd by 6 points. So he would need to move his way up the order. Dan Lloyd still finds himself just behind. As through goes Charles Rainford. We've got Darryl De Leon and Charles Rainford now nose to tail on the circuit. We know how close it is in the Jack Sears Trophy, but all of a sudden, Darryl De Leon, since the restart, as Josh said, has been dropping down. Charles Rainford is back on it, and here we go. The bit between his teeth, the red mist starting to set in, and let's see what they can do.
They're 3rd and 4th in the Jack Sears running at the moment. I think De Leon can afford for there to be a car between them, but no more than that. And he goes up the inside of the Toyota, who it suddenly slowed the Aaron Taylor-Smith car. So Darryl De Leon's now put a car between himself and Charles Rainford at Paddock Hill Bend. Yeah, Taylor-Smith's got a problem, so he's going to pull out of the race by the looks of things. The BMW drivers back together. De Leon just ahead of Rainford.
Yep, next up the road is going to be one of those restart racing machines, so they're going to try and work their way past if they can. Chris Smiley, he of course needs to keep himself out of trouble and try and work his way past Dexter Patterson to have a chance, maybe not of catching Dan Lloyd in the Independents, but it might actually jump him ahead of Mikey Doble if he can get through. So we'll see what happens with those two in terms of the Independents, as now Nicholas Hamilton is under pressure from Max Buxton as they turn their way on towards the left-hander of Surtees for the 10th time of asking. But watch out for Ash Sutton. He's now back on it, quickest man in this race on a 1:29.632. He's now less than a second adrift of Josh Cook.
Yeah, that's right. That battle as well between Max Buxton and Nick Hamilton, possibly good news to Dan Lloyd, because Hamilton had just got on the tail of Lloyd, and if he got past him in the Independents, that could have had championship implications. But the battle that Nick Hamilton's now in with Max Buxton has given Dan Lloyd a little bit of breathing room behind him. We're on lap 10 of 18. The gap was 9/10 of a second at the start of the lap between Cook and Sutton. They're having a pretty similar lap Cook's got more boost to use, which is his advantage as they come up across the line to complete lap 10, 8 to go of the 2025 season.
It looks like Josh Cook has responded, half a second quicker than Ash Sutton on that previous lap. So back on it is Josh Cook as they work their way towards paddock.
And because Sutton is up to second now since the restart, Napa Racing UK back ahead in the team's point standings. So for both Ingram and Proctor, they're not making any progress for the Team Virtue point standings, where Ash Sutton's gained that place since the restart. So Napa Racing UK just ahead in that team's championship battle.
Yes, there might not be slight frostier atmosphere in the garage now, so that might be better for Napa Racing. As onto the back straight we go with the battle now between Charles Rainford and Daryl de Leon. We'll keep an eye on that one as Moffat comes under pressure here from Gordon Shedden. So this is for fourth place, and again it just looks like the BMWs on these soft tyres are now starting to struggle because Gordon Shedden has a good run through Pilgrim's Drop. We've got Dan Rowbottom not too far behind, and Tom Ingram manages to keep himself ahead of his teammate Sinan Proctor as round the outside tries to go Dan Rowbottom on Gordon Shedden. He doesn't have any of that, but then again on the run towards Westfield he tries another attack down towards the inside line, but enough ahead there for Gordon Shedden, and that eagling problem for Aaron Taylor-Smith has now seen him into the pit lane for the team to try and work on the car.
It's a different story in the Manufacturers Constructors Championship. Different drivers score different points for the different titles, and the Accelerate Motorsport Hyundai team now 3 points ahead of Alliance Racing Ford. So as one championship, the teams goes one way, the Manufacturers Constructors Championship goes the other way.
Four-way fight comes off then the Grand Prix circuit with Moffat still ahead of Shedden, and this is a good run for Shedden now. I don't know why Moffat keeps flashing his lights through the final corner. There's no one ahead of him at the minute, so maybe it's just a habit he's grown into across the course of this race, but he goes down in towards Paddock Hill Bend, and to be fair, the likes of Tingram and Senna Proctor and also Adam Morgan are not too far back now, so this five-way fight we are having, maybe 6 cars involved in this, is now starting to be held up by Aidan Moffat. He can't quite keep with the top 3. As Cook went through that time, he was 0.2 of a second slower than Ash Sutton, but the gap between the top 2 at the minute still remains over a second. We've got 7 laps just under to go, but what a great atmosphere this is. The light is starting to set, the lights are on the cars, we can see some flames coming from the back of the cars as well, so it's a wonderful setting for this final race of the year.
In the Independent Trophy, Dexter Patterson's taking the lead of this race away from Chris Smiley, so that gives Dan Lloyd a bit more comfort zone in the Independence Championship. And Smiley is slowing, or is he? Because now Daryl de Leon accelerates past Chris Smiley, which is good news for de Leon because that means there's a car between himself and Charles Rainford now.
But you can be assured Rainford will be straight onto the back of Smiley and trying to make that move as quick as he possibly can. So Smiley needs to be careful here not to be embroiled in this Jack Sears Trophy battle, but as it stands, he still sits third within the Independence Trophy. So he's 7 points adrift of his teammate Dan Lloyd, and he's still 1 point adrift of Mikey Doble as it currently stands. Mikey Doble is now onto the tail of Chris Smiley because Charles Rainford has gone through. So it's the Jack Sears drivers back together. It's the independent drivers together as well in terms of Chris Smiley and that of Mikey Doble, and Dan Lloyd is there or thereabouts as well.
Yeah, Smiley's lost 2 places on this lap to the 2 BMW drivers, so not sure if all is well with Chris Smiley's car. And Mikey Doble can't go through into Paddock Hill Bend. Dan Lloyd is there as well. So all 3 of them, the drivers have been battling all season long in the Independence Championship. They are battling on track for the final time this year. It's Chris Smiley ahead of Mikey Doble and Dan Lloyd. In fact, in the championship, they're going to finish in the opposite order if it stands as it is.
Yep. So fans start to rub their hands together. They know there's a tasty battle on the way here, and Dan Lloyd already trying to look down the inside of Mikey Doble. Of course, if Dan Lloyd gets through on Mikey, that would help Chris Smiley out in terms of second place in the Independence Trophy. So Dan now looks to the outside line in towards 30s, but Mikey runs him as wide as he possibly can. There's going to be a cutback on the moves here as well. So Dan Lloyd accelerates himself on through Pilgrim's Drop. In terms of boost, Lloyd has 6 laps left. Doble only has 5, so there's an extra one in the tank for that of Dan Lloyd. He looks to the outside line in towards Hawthorns. It's going to be another cutback on the cars here as well, and all of this is just allowing Chris Smiley to get up the road. So the independence battle continues. Smiley still sits second, Dexter Patterson still leads it, and the BMW gets ever closer as well between Daryl de Leon and Charles Rainford. So that means that the battle in the Jack Sears Trophy is still ongoing, but Daryl de Leon, by the skin of his teeth, is just about keeping himself ahead.
Yes, that's right. It's really intense stuff in both of those categories, as it is in the teams and constructors championships as well. The battle for 6th could be pretty vital there, because Dan Rowbottom is 6th, Tom Ingram is 7th, so you've got that battle playing out on circuit for 6th position. Meanwhile, the independent drivers are side by side. Dan Lloyd on the outside of Mikey Doble, who squeezes Dan Lloyd towards the white line. You were describing the Porsche Carrera Cup where there was some backing up going on to try and create drama. I just wonder if that's starting to happen in this independence battle, Matt.
Could well be. So Mikey Doble will have to go very, very defensive indeed. They're going to be joined as well by Max Buxton and Nicholas Hamilton before too much longer as well. So they're going to have a few more cars to play with in this battle that we have for the independents. Of course, Buxton is not one of those independent drivers, so it can't really affect anything in terms of if he got through. But Mikey Doble, in a way, knows what he needs to do. He probably would like to be playing with Chris Smiley here, but that's not quite going to be the case, because he's scampered up through the road, and as they accelerate once again under the bridge, we can just see how dark it's getting out there on circuit with the lights ablaze. But what can Dan Lloyd do? Does he go for the outside line? Yes, he does. But Mikey Doble, as long as he covers the inside line and gets back to the apex, he should be okay for the time being.
Yeah, Dan Lloyd doesn't need to overtake Mikey Doble to win the championship, but he doesn't want to lose any further positions. I think that's what Mikey Doble is relying on. He's got Nick Hamilton not far away in that independence battle there as they turn their way round the Grand Prix loop. Meanwhile, up front, just keeping an eye on Jake Hill, because he's starting to catch Josh Cook and Ash Sutton with 4 laps of the race to go. Over certainly the previous lap, Jake Hill caught a lot of positions. It's side by side again between Doble and Lloyd down towards Clearways corner there. Door mirror to door mirror as they turn into the final corner.
Yeah, Dan Lloyd on the boost there by the looks of it, so that gave him the encouragement down through onto the Indy circuit. He's on it again as he works his way up towards the line. Mikey Doble doesn't really use any that time, so let's see now what the similar of lap times will be. 3 laps each in terms of boost, and now back on evil pegging levels as Charles Rainford goes round the outside of Darrell De Leon, but Darrell runs him out wide, so they might be teammates. But we heard from Dick Bennett's on the grid that they are fighting the 2 BMWs for the Jack Sears trophy, so they're going to go all out to be the winner of that. And now Darrell De Leon gets on his boost as they work their way down the Cooper Straight. But for now, Charles Rainford has to sit second best to the other BMW of his teammate.
And Rainford's got 2 extra laps of boost left than Darrell De Leon, so if he can get past De Leon, that's good news. And he really needs to get past Dexter Patterson and ideally Sam Osborne too, if he's going to win this Jack Sears Trophy Championship, because they come into the race 5 points apart. Just getting past De Leon won't quite be enough. He needs to get another place as well, but they're not far ahead, those 2, so it's still on for Darrell De Leon. And Mikey Doble and Dan Lloyd are still side by side. They've been side by side lap after lap. Mikey Doble's still ahead in that battle for 3rd in the independents.
And all of a sudden, Chris Smiley, who was just ahead of them, is now 3.3 seconds down the road. So you can see how much Mikey Doble in that 88 machine is having to defend in the Cupra now for the last couple of meetings. Doing well is Mikey to adapt to this car, but the main problem for him at the minute is going to be that Restart Racing Hyundai, which is right behind it. Gets another great run down onto the Indy circuit. Both of the drivers on the boost once more as they come back into our sight. You've got also in the background there Nicholas Hamilton having one of the best runs of his weekend so far, and also not too far back, as we said, is going to be that of Max Buxton. So those guys come through again. 3 laps to go as they head their way down in towards Paddock Hill Bend. The BMWs are going to be side by side in towards Druids as well. So Charles Rainford for the inside line. This is all for the Jack Sears Trophy. The bigger lights ablaze there comes the way of Darrell De Leon, and
Rainford got down the inside, got through, then they had a clash on the exit of the corner. I think De Leon back ahead, but they are absolutely going for it in the Jack Sears Trophy battle. Nick Hamilton now on the tail of Dan Lloyd. This is what Mikey Doble wanted to happen if he could gain positions, and Tom Ingram is through ahead of Dan Rowbottom. Now this could have implications in the teams and constructors championship, and Adam Morgan's going to come through as well on the inside. So the 2 Team Virtue cars ahead of the Napa Racing car of Dan Rowbottom. We'll have to do the calculations again when they get to the end of the lap, but the change of positions could have championship implications once more.
Yeah, not too sure why Rowbottom slowed slightly there, but it didn't seem like he had the power, whether the other 2 drivers were on the boost. But as it stands, yeah, this is going to change things up once again in the manufacturers and constructors, and also in the teams championship as well. And you've got another Team Virtue car in the background as well, which is Senna Proctor. So all of them, in terms of the Hyundais, coming on strong towards the end of this race. So down they come on towards the Indy circuit. A replay of Rowbottom wide at Paddock Hill Bend on that lap, which allowed round the outside to go the car which is now ahead of him, which is Tom Ingram. And of course Adam Morgan got through in the same process there as well. So lots of drama in this final race. The BMWs in terms of De Leon and Rainford, that has now changed around. So on that lap, Rainford did get ahead of Darrell De Leon. So again, we'll have a look at the Jack Sears Trophy points on that one in a due course.
Yeah, you just had confirmation Dan Rowbottom not scoring points towards the teams or the constructors, so it's not the end of the world for Napa Racing UK, but getting further up the order, possibly good news for the Team Virtue Hyundai car. So I think it's still the same as it was. The Manufacturer Constructor Championship, that's heading the way of Accelerate Motorsport Hyundai, and in the Teams Championship, Napa Racing still all the advantage over Team Virtue, and Dan Lloyd's about to lose a place in the independents because Nick Hamilton's round the outside into Graham Hill Bend. Mikey Doble looks up ahead of them, and Nick Hamilton right round the outside ahead of Dan Lloyd now.
He certainly is, and who else is coming into the mix is going to be that of Max Buxton, but down the inside tries to go Dan Lloyd once again. Nicholas Hamilton is out wide, trying to get his way past on Mikey Doble, so it's going to be another drag race on towards Pilgrim's Drop, and we have just 1.5 laps to go, and it's going to be in there as well, Max Buxton, but it's going to be now who has the rest of the boost left. Dan Lloyd will lose a further place, but that won't affect the independents, but Nicholas Hamilton has gone through, so maybe the work of Mikey Doble to back the pack up has just come to fruition, but again, I don't think that's quite going to be enough to help him out, unfortunately, in the Independence Trophy.
It makes it very, very close indeed, though, between Dan Lloyd and Mikey Doble. Will it bring it down to about a couple of points in it? There's 1 lap to go, and that lap could change everything in the Independence Championship. Side by side up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Meanwhile, Gordon Shedden gains a place up ahead of Aidan Moffat. 1 lap of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship to go for 2025.
Yeah, and Cook has a 1.4 second lead over the rest of the pack as it stands, as Moffat now goes to the outside of Shedden. So Shedden just gone through that time up into 4th position, and behind these two guys as well is going to be Tom Ingram and Adam Morgan. They're not quite done, and we know there's still going to be a constructors and manufacturers title on the line as well, but as it stands it would be evenly shared, wasn't it, with the teams and also the manufacturers, so at least they'll be getting 1 each as it currently stands. But for the final time, Josh Cook makes his way on towards the back straight. More flashing being done from Aidan Moffat, but it's been a very, very good race for Josh Cook. He's got a few more corners to go, but what an epic race, as Alan said, this has definitely been.
Yeah, and a 13th different winner is about to come out of this, with Josh Cook leading the way. The driver who's about to win his 21st for the 21st time in the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. It's been a troublesome year for Josh Cook, but it's all going to come good to end the season.
Yep, show your appreciation, because down off the Grand Prix circuit for the final time, it's been a troubled year, but finally Josh Cook does get his first win, a 3rd win on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, a 1st of the season, and Josh Cook is the 13th winner in the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. A sterling drive to finish ahead of Ash Sutton, a runner-up in race number 3 and a runner-up in the championship as well. 3rd place has gone the way of the man who is leaving the championship for now, which is Jake Hill. Across the line for 4th place will be Gordon Shedden ahead of Aidan Moffat as the fireworks fly at the end of the pit lane there to celebrate the conclusion of the season. Behind the top 5, it's Tom Ingram in 6th place, Adam Morgan for 7th, Rowbottom 8th and Proctor 9th. Osborne comes through in 10th place, and we've had a change further down.
Charles Rainford got to pass Daryl De Leon on that final lap of the race. I don't think it's going to make a difference in the Jack Sears Championship. De Leon's going to win it by 3 points, despite that final lap pass by Charles Rainford. The difference was Charles Rainford was drawing up alongside Dexter Patterson. He couldn't do it by 27 thousandths of a second, and that, I think, would have made the difference for the championship. For 2nd place in the Jack Sears Trophy race, Charles Rainford missing out by 27 thousandths of a second, and that means Daryl De Leon will claim the Jack Sears Trophy title.